They laughed when he tripped over his own boots. He was the weakest, the slowest, the human. But when the siren screamed and the real test began, no one was laughing anymore. The Galactic Military Academy was supposed to forge the finest warriors in the known universe. Its halls gleamed with the promise of glory, its training grounds echoed with the clash of a dozen species proving their worth. Among the scaled Crothy warriors, the four-armed Vendorians, and the telepathic Ashari, there was one oddity, a single human named Jace Walker. Dead last again? Walker, Instructor Zektal announced, his mandibles clicking with disappointment as the rankings flashed on the holographic display. 47 seconds slower than your nearest competitor in the obstacle course. The Crothy cadet next to Jace flashed his teeth. You're a Deathworlder? What died? Your talent. Laughter rippled through the ranks. Jace just wiped the sweat from his eyes and nodded. I'll do better tomorrow, sir. You said that yesterday, another cadet snorted. And the day before. It was always the same. In combat simulations, Jace's reflexes couldn't match the Vendorian's four-armed advantage. In tactical planning, the Ashari's collective consciousness left him struggling to keep up. Even basic physical training seemed designed for species with natural armor, enhanced strength, or redundant organs. Jace had none of those. Just soft skin, brittle bones, and a stubbornness that everyone mistook for stupidity. Commander Varix had pulled him aside after the third month. Cadet Walker, perhaps you should consider alternative career paths. Not everyone is meant for military service. I'm exactly where I need to be, Commander, Jace had replied quietly. Your scores suggest otherwise. My scores don't know what I know. Now 6 months in, Jace remained at the bottom of every ranking. His squad barely tolerated him, assigning him the simplest tasks during exercises. Watch the rear. Carry supplies. Stay out of the way. The morning it all changed started like any other. Combat Scenario Delta 7. Urban Warfare Simulation, Full Immersion. Jace's squad moved through the holographic city, executing perfect formations while he struggled to keep pace. Walker, watch our 6, squad leader Kree barked. Try not to shoot yourself this time. Then the lights went wrong. The comfortable blue glow of the simulation field flickered, turned an angry red. The fake buildings shimmered, solidified. The training weapons in their hands suddenly hummed with lethal charge. System malfunction, someone shouted. Commander Varix's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with panic. All cadets, this is not a drill. Hostile breach in the Academy mainframe. Unknown entities have hijacked the training systems. Lethal protocols are active. Repeat, this is not a drill. The first real enemy rounded the corner, a security drone reprogrammed to kill. Its plasma cannon swiveled toward the frozen cadets. Move. Jace's voice cut through the paralysis like a blade. The cadets scattered as plasma fire scorched where they'd been standing. Some ran blindly. Others froze behind inadequate cover. Squad leader Kree was shouting orders that no one could hear over the chaos. But Jace went still. His breathing slowed. His eyes tracked patterns in the drone's movement. 3 seconds between shots. 2-meter blind spot on the left. Predictable targeting algorithm. Kree, throw me your tactical pad, Jace called out, already moving. What? Walker, get to cover. Now. Something in his voice made the Vendorian obey. Jace caught the device mid-roll, his fingers flying across the interface as plasma bolts sizzled overhead. Around him, elite cadets from warrior species cowered and panicked. They'd trained for scenarios. Jace had trained for survival. You trained to follow orders, he muttered, rerouting the building's power grid through the pad. I trained for when they stop coming. The lights in the sector died. The drone, suddenly blind, fired wildly. Jace was already moving, using the cover of darkness to close distance. He slid between its legs, jammed his training blade into its power coupling. The drone collapsed. How did you? Kree started. No time. Jace was already accessing the drone's memory core. They're not just in the training systems. They're moving through the whole academy. Someone's trying to capture or kill the next generation of military leaders. He pulled up a tactical display on the pad. Red dots swarmed through the academy's layout. His squad gathered around him, looking to the cadet they'd dismissed for months. The mainframe Ashari Cadet Veen whispered, her tentacles pale with fear. If they control that, they control everything, Jace finished. Defenses, life support, communications. We need to get there first. That's 17 levels up. Kree protested. Through active combat zones? Jace looked at each of them. The strongest, fastest, smartest beings from their respective worlds. All frozen by the gap between training and reality. You want to know why I fail your tests? Jace asked quietly. Because they're built for perfect conditions. Clean objectives. Fair fights. He checked the charge on his weapon. Earth doesn't raise soldiers. It raises survivors. He moved out without waiting for agreement. After a moment of shocked silence, they followed. What followed was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. Jace led them through maintenance tunnels the others hadn't known existed. He reprogrammed cleaning bots as distractions. He used the Academy's own environmental systems against the hijacked defenses, flooding corridors, venting atmosphere, creating pressure differentials that sent drones tumbling. How do you know all this? Veen gasped as Jace hotwired another access panel. You memorized weapon specifications, Jace replied, not looking up. I memorized the building. You studied tactics. I studied the janitor's routes. You prepared to win. I prepared for when winning wasn't an option. Level by level, they climbed. Jace's squad learned to move like him, quiet, efficient, always thinking 3 steps ahead. When they encountered other cadets, panicked and leaderless, Jace folded them into his growing force without missing a beat. By the time they reached the mainframe level, he was leading 40 cadets from a dozen species. The main corridor was a killing field. Hijacked turrets, defense drones, and energy barriers creating an impenetrable gauntlet. The elite cadets looked at the defenses and saw death. Jace saw a puzzle. Veen, can you interface with the environmental controls? Maybe, but... Kree, how much weight can you throw? About 300 kilos, but I don't see. Perfect. Jace began stripping power cells from their weapons. We're going to overload the turret targeting systems. Use Kree's strength to throw cadet mechs through the... That's insane, someone protested. Jace paused, really looked at them for the first time. These were tomorrow's military leaders, and they were terrified. Not of death, but of failure. Of not being perfect. Sometimes the quiet ones aren't behind, he said softly. They're just watching, learning, waiting for the moment when perfect isn't enough. He activated the makeshift EMP device. This is that moment. The plan was insane. It was also brilliant. Chaos orchestrated with surgical precision. Jace moved through the gauntlet like he'd been born to it, every stumble in training translated into deadly grace under pressure. He didn't move like the others, efficient and powerful. He moved like someone who'd learned that survival meant being unpredictable. When the last drone fell and Jace's hands flew across the mainframe console, shutting down the hostile takeover, the corridor fell silent except for sparking electronics and heavy breathing. System secure, he announced quietly. Academy defenses back under our control. He turned to find every cadet staring at him. Commander Varix and the instructors, who'd fought their way up from the other direction, looked equally stunned. Cadet Walker, Varix said slowly. That was, how did you? You don't need to be the strongest to be the last one standing, Jace replied, already turning to help wounded cadets. You just need to be willing to do what survival requires. Instructor Zektal, who declared him dead last that very morning, couldn't find words. Finally, Kree spoke for all of them. He wasn't weak, the Vendrian said, wonder in his voice. He was waiting. In the days that followed, as the Academy processed what had happened, a sophisticated attack by anti-military extremists, thwarted by cadets, everyone wanted to understand. How had their worst student become their best leader when it mattered? Jace's answer was simple. I didn't fail your tests. I was preparing for the one that mattered. They reviewed his records with new eyes. His combat scores were low, but his situational awareness was perfect. He'd mapped every ventilation shaft, memorized every instructor's habits, learned every cadet's strengths and weaknesses. While they trained to be warriors, he trained to be what warriors became when the rules broke down, a survivor who could turn chaos into victory. The rankings board still glowed in the assembly hall, but now it seemed meaningless. When the next scores posted, Jace Walker's name sat at the top. Not because he'd suddenly become faster or stronger, but because the Academy had finally learned to measure what actually mattered. As Jace walked past the board, a group of new cadets whispered and pointed. The human who'd been everyone's joke. The Deathworlder who'd shown them what that really meant. One young Ashari cadet called out, Cadet Walker, how do we become like you? Jace paused, considered. Stop trying to be perfect. Start trying to be ready. The universe doesn't care about your scores when the sirens start screaming. He walked on, leaving them with one final thought. Earth taught me something your worlds might have forgotten. Sometimes the test isn't about being the best. Sometimes it's about being the last one standing when the best isn't enough. Behind him, 40 cadets who'd followed a failing human through hell stood a little straighter. They'd learned the same lesson Earth had taught Jace Walker. True power isn't about strength or speed or perfect scores. It's about being ready when ready is all that's left.